Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here again. Thank you very, very much, as always, for taking the time to tune into this episode. And today I'm absolutely delighted, really, truly delighted to be joined by my pal, fellow Rangers fan, songwriter, lead singer of St. Phoenix and co-founder of the Happy Place Workshop, Stevie Jukes, who is here to talk about how he and his brother Al are impacting school children's lives in Scotland and how that fits in with the preparation for their forthcoming Angels Share World Tour in 2026 with fellow music artist Nathan Evans. And recently the band were just awarded Artist of the Year at the Scottish Music Awards. And I have to say, after all that, I feel like I should just end the interview right now, because that's as good as it gets, isn't it? You know, there's not a lot more I can say.
That's pretty good, aye. It's pretty good, no bad.
It's pretty impressive. It really is. So the Happy Place Workshop began after the loss of their dad, Bert, and out of that grief, they wrote the song Happy Place. And I have to say, it's a favourite of mine, absolutely, as I love the song. And what started as one school visit has now grown into something far bigger than they could ever have imagined. And since that time, they've delivered over 200 workshops in schools across Scotland, literally across the entire country, reaching over 11,000 children. And through music, storytelling and art, they help young people talk about emotions, loss, resilience and hope. And recently, the Happy Place Workshop was granted official charitable status by the Office of the Scottish Charity Regulator. And here's the thing, and I'm going to actually give you a wee bit of a quiz here, Stevie. Stevie and I go way back. He was on my other podcast, the NARSA podcast, quite some time ago. Do you remember when that was?
Oh, that would have been summertime 2020?
It was March 2021.
Was it?
So,
wow.
Yeah, it was. It's quite
Wow.
some time ago. And here's a funny story to get going. I remember Happy Place came out, loved the song and played it all the time. So Leo, my son, he's now 16. He loves it as well. And we're sitting watching. We used to watch American Idol, loved the singing programs and such.
Yeah.
And then one of the times at the very beginning, you get Ryan Seacrest coming on at the TV, and then Happy Place is playing in the background at the very beginning, at the intro of the show. So I wasn't expecting that. So I jump up and I'm kind of getting all flipped out. And Leo's like, "What happened? What?" And I'm like, "That's Happy Place. That's Happy Place." And Leo's like, "Okay, right, calm down." I says, "But that's by Steve. That's by St. Phoenix. Like that's the Happy Place song." And Leo's like, "Okay, right, whatever it was." And then I messaged Stevie to say, "I just seen it on. I just seen it on." And you were kind of cool. You were very chill about it as well. You're like, yeah, that was a management company. They got that on there. That's kind of good. And my mind was blown. This is like 30 million people watching this show, and then your wee song that you created at this point, it was just part of national story at that particular point. It seemed to be I was the only guy excited about it, I have to say, at that particular time.
I wasn't excited watching it back, trust me. Don't worry.
Yeah, good man. So all that to say, Stevie, thank you very, very much for joining me today, my friend.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Pleasure to be here.
Good man. So, as I like to do at the beginning of all these interviews, is to get a wee bit of a feel and flavour for the journey that you've been on to get to this particular part. It seems like a very unique dissection of life that you have right now, where things are really exploding on the Happy Place Workshop. And at the same time, as I mentioned briefly in the bio there, which we'll talk about in a wee bit, you have this pending world tour coming up in 2026. So how did that journey all start, with a wee bit more flavour than I added in the bio?
Well, I've been doing music for a long time. Certainly, and probably over the last maybe 2 or 3 years, I've really realised how important music can be. Ironically, after doing it for so long. I've been in the band St. Phoenix with my brother for the last 10 years. And as you mentioned there, we wrote a song in 2020 about our dad, Bertie, called Happy Place. And the whole dynamic changed since that song was written and released. It's been a bit of a crazy roller coaster. And from that song, we've kind of changed direction sonically, musically from ourselves with what we're doing, and now we've teamed up with Nathan Evans, and also the birth of the workshop, which is, created this, I don't know what to call it, just something out the blue just came and just opened up an opportunity to go and use music for the powerful good, and that's what we're on. But it's all because of that song.
Yeah. And how does it go from you're writing the song and a wee bit? I'd love a wee bit more detail about the song. I know part of the story,
Yeah,
but it came at a very critical point in your dad's illness as well. There was a family story to it.
sure. So basically, all that. Our dad was our biggest fan. Plain and simple. We started St Phoenix in 2016. Around about 2017, he was diagnosed with a terminal illness called pulmonary fibrosis. You wouldn't have known that because he was kind of just normal. He used to have a wee bit of a cough, but nothing crazy. And basically, pulmonary fibrosis means it's a lung condition where your lungs harden, and basically your lung capacity decreases, and basically they stop working after a lengthy time. And there's no cure for it, unfortunately. I think the only probable cure for it just now is a transplant, but you have to be a certain age for that to happen. So he was diagnosed with that, but I didn't let him get it. Didn't let that get to him. He just battled on. And then I think it was around about 2018, one Christmas, he got, it was really cold and his lungs were sore and he was coughing his head off. And we said, Bertie, why don't you go and just move abroad? Go and, sell your house away and live in Spain, or you like to go to India with my mum and stuff. So go abroad, and the cold weather won't affect your lungs. And he said, no, my dream is to build a house for your mum. I've always wanted to build a house. So you get this mad plan, bought a wee bit of land at a place called Kilkeggy, just outside Lanark. And he built this house, and during building this house, they lived in a caravan. They sold their family home, got a wee bit of land, lived in a caravan, and they built this house outside Lanark, which is mental to us, especially when diagnosed with this illness. And he built this house, and then he finished building it. And when you look out the windows of this house, you see these big, it's just rolling hills, and you can see so much of it. You can see the Pentlands, you can see the Tweedsmuir Hills, and the southern uplands like Tinto and Coulterfell, with this big valley in front of it. It's spectacular, it really is. You have to see it to believe it. And so he built this house. Right after he finished building it, the pandemic happened, COVID-19. So we've been in tour with Lewis Capaldi and Youngblood across America. We're bringing him on. We actually bring him on tour some of the dates, and then right after he finished the building the house and the tour stopped, the pandemic happened. Everything's locked down, and during lockdown, because everything is locked down, Alan had no place to play music because we didn't have a studio in our house, and we're kind of worried about what we're going to do because music and all the arts kind of took a back seat. But we're lucky because our dad said, listen, at his new house, there was a wee garage sitting empty. He said, go in there and you can build a wee studio. So we built this studio in his garage at his new house, and in lockdown we were in this garage just basically recording and writing songs. But the best bit was about that we got to play him all the unreleased and brand new music, which was his favourite thing. But as COVID progressed, his lung capacity started to decrease, and he started to feel the effects of the pulmonary fibrosis. And it was the first time in our life we actually saw our dad kind of really vulnerable, and really under pressure with his illness. And I never forget it. I was in the studio one time and I went in to see him, and I walked in his living room, and there he was sitting on his couch and he was looking out the windows at the house and the view. And it was kind of like a eureka moment, the fact that he dreamed of this house. It was in his head, and he had a dream of just basically building the house before he died. He knew he was dying, so he just wanted to get this house built before he died. So there I'm watching him, and he had a really bad week that week. He got some bad news about his lungs, but he was sitting on the couch and he didn't notice me coming into the house. He was just sitting, he was at peace and he was chilled out and he was looking at the view. And when I saw that, it just hit me for six, and I went back into the studio and I told Alan, and basically we just wrote the chords and the chorus for this song. It was over the hills and far away, looking out for a better day. When it seems like there's no escape, take me to my happy place, because, you know, that's what he was in. He was in his happy place, just trying to send his worries away over the hills. So that was just the chorus. We never thought anything of it, just left it as that. And that the year progressed, and this is 2020 now, and his health got worse. And on Christmas night, he got taken to hospital, couldn't breathe, taken to hospital, and that was pretty much it. Because of COVID, we couldn't get in and see him. So we're on FaceTime to him every day, worrying about him, phoning him, how are you, you know, worried sick. And he said, listen, I'm fine. Can you send me some music, because I'm absolutely bored in this place and I need some music to cheer me up. And we said, Dad, I've not had a chance to write any songs because we're so worried about you. And he said, listen, just go and play in the studio, go and write something for me and send it to me. So we went into the studio, we spilled our heart out and wrote the verses and put this song together, called it Happy Place. And the night we finished the song, we went back down to the house, my house, and as I got there, I got a phone call from the doctor to say, you need to come and say your last goodbyes. Your dad's not going to make it through the night. So we went to the hospital as a family, got all geared up in all the PPE gear and all the hazmat stuff. It was crazy. It was kind of surreal when you think about it. And we got to be with our dad for maybe 4 or 5 hours, because he was going to pass away. But those 4 or 5 hours were very special. And one of the most special bits of that time with him is we got to play the song to him and he got to hear it. And he passed that night. And the next couple of days, we told our manager we had written this song. We touched base with our manager after he passed away and told him, listen, we wrote this song. And our manager, Mark, said, do you mind if I hear it? And I sent him the song. And he came back and said, listen, I'd like to put some people, if you don't mind. I said, no, that's fine. Then about a week later, we had an offer for a record deal with Atlantic Records in America, who wanted to sign the band and help us tell the story. So that's basically the birth of Happy Place, how it came about, what it was all about. And then that started basically a trajectory of where we're at just now. We released that song on Atlantic Records in the summer of 2021. And that was the journey of, you know, we explained there, hearing it on American Idol, it was on Britain's Got Talent, it got in the charts. You know, we went on tour, we played everywhere. It really, really was an incredible moment, you know, hearing that song everywhere and on radio and whatnot. And, you know, it was really, really special to us. But the most important part of that, that we found after months of it being out, was the messages, the emails, the DMs from people around the world saying how this song was so powerful and how it helped them through a hard time. It was used at funerals, it was used at weddings, it was used at christenings, it was used in school assemblies. We got all this feedback, we just couldn't believe it. The song resonated with so many people, and again, it was the first time in our lives that we realised how powerful music can be. And then as the song kind of died down a little bit, that's what happens in music. You put songs out, and then, you know, the record labels and everything, they turn to different songs and they ask you to make your next move. We always felt that song had more life in it, and we made a pact together that we always wanted to tell the story of our dad. And we decided that we could use that song for the power of good, and we decided to start the Happy Place workshop, which was empowering kids and teaching them about mindfulness, mental health and well-being through the power of music, all based on that song, and basically telling stories of everything that we've learned in the music industry for the last 10 years, and how that can be used in everyday life, and how music can, as I said, empower you and help you through emotions. And we started the Happy Place workshop through that song, and it's been crazy. I hit 200 schools in the last 2 years, 12,000 kids through the workshop, partnered with Parks Motor Group, Loganair, Scotland's National Airways, AS Scaffold and Black Rooster, CSD Air Conditioning, many, many more. Been recognised in the Scottish Government. We've just been on Lorraine Kelly on Friday there with the STV Children's Appeal, and as you mentioned, we've been officially registered as an official charity through Oscar. So it's been an absolute whirlwind the last couple of years. I mean, the story of St Phoenix has been an absolute whirlwind, but certainly the last couple of years has been pretty crazy.
What an incredible story, and what an incredible legacy for your family, and the ability to be able to continue to honour your dad each and every single day. Did you think at any point that philanthropy would be a key part of your musical journey, literally hand in hand as you were moving forward, or it just organically became the right thing to do?
Well, our dad always told us to be, he always says, be the best you can be, and if you ever have an experience with another human being, you want to leave that human being with a positive experience and a positive interaction, and that's what kind of prided ourselves on. Initially, it was kind of in the after Happy Place was out, and we did some other songs after that. I think the grieving process really kicked in. We used Happy. Well, we didn't know this at the time, but we were using Happy Place as therapy, writing it, putting it out, doing all the marketing, all the social media, telling the story. That was basically much therapy for us through the whole grieving process, and we had a fire in our belly to tell the story. But once the song died down, I guess the grieving process was put on hold until that song kind of died down. And then, 2022, 2023, the grieving process really kicked in. And I think through that process, my dad was a motivational speaker. He travelled around the world doing motivational speaking. His library is second to none, and it's in my mum's house just now, but the library is absolutely incredible. He's met Jim Rohn and Anthony Robbins and Brian Tracy, all these guys. He's worked with them, he's met them all in the past. But we were kind of brought up on that without even knowing. He was kind of he's filling our heads with this stuff all throughout our lives, and we were kind of, as I said, brought up on the power of manifestation and the universe and that kind of thing. We were surrounded all of this growing up, but through the grieving process when it kicked in, I think we kind of lost track of that and kind of lost our wee bit of our inner compass and what we wanted to do and where we were going, because we were, I guess, grieving, and that kind of affected us musically. We kind of thought, what's the point? Where are we going? What are we doing? What we're writing about? What's this going to sound like? And the thing that we turned to was, well, what do we feel passionate about? What do we want to do? And every road kept leading back to Happy Place. We always thought there's so much life in that song. Let's put all our passion into that song. And obviously we've released it and people have heard it. What else can we do to bring that song and use it for the good? And we decided to start this workshop. It was Alan. Alan's sister-in-law is a school teacher, and she said, listen, at Mental Health, World Mental Health Day, we used a Happy Place as the topic. So all the kids were dissecting the music video and all the meaning behind it, the lyrics, they were singing the song, they were drawing their happy place, and it really opened their eyes and thought, well, we could maybe do something like this but for all kids, and teach them about everything that we've learned. And the song can be the basis of that. So Alan went away and come back one day and said, listen, I've stuck Amy, who's his sister-in-law, Amy stuck this on a head teacher's Facebook group, and I've got 40 bookings for a workshop, so we're going to go and do it. And I says, what workshop? We don't even know what it is. We've not even started to talk about it. He says, well, I've booked it, so you better get it done. So we sat in the studio for about a week and we worked out, I guess, a process of how we can I don't know, just basically teach kids properly about mental health and about music. And we looked at all this different structures, how to talk to kids, how to communicate with kids, powerful moments, powerful topics to use, sensory, singing, songwriting, mindfulness, all these different kind of things, and cognitive things as well, like put something together. So we trialed this workshop. It was a bit like showing up to do your first gig. It was a bit all over the place, but the kids loved it. And then we started critiquing it, started recording it back, watching things that did well, watching things that did wrong. Basically what we used to do when we played gigs, kind of self-assessing and working away and getting feedback from kids. And then it just developed and developed, and it kept going and going on. And then, as I said, that's us down to, I've done 200 workshops just now, and it's taken us all over Scotland, the Highlands and the Islands, north, south, east, west, everywhere. It's been absolutely incredible.
Fabulous. It's such a brilliant story. And just to kind of go back to the grieving process, I don't know if you remember this, but my dad passed in May of 2023.
Yeah.
And at 2022, I should say. And at some point after that, talking about the grieving process, I had messaged you to let you know and say, this has happened, I'm feeling a little bit lost. And you'd get back to me to say, you've got him in your heart. He's part of you. This will get better. And it helped so much at that point because you were ahead of me in the journey, and I was kind of like, what does this look like? Because nobody teaches you how to grieve properly. And I felt about my dad the way that you felt about Bertie as well. So it was that opportunity to kind of pay it forward sort of thing, or pay it back maybe. I don't know what the correct term was, but immensely helpful.
I appreciate it, and I think that's kind of things that the workshop's been an absolute massive eye opener, because Alan and I have been very, very naive. We grew up in a very loving family where uniquely they're all brothers and sisters. We've got another brother and sister, so Dave's in Australia and our sister Jill. We're all very close with the cousins and nieces and nephews, etc. We were brought up with absolute love everywhere, and it's not until you go into, when I used to play football, when I was younger, you go and meet kids at different backgrounds and realise that some kids don't have a mum, don't have a dad, they're divorced or they've passed away. And when we're going to school for these workshops, you're finding out at least one child has suffered loss, grief and trauma of some sort. And it's a massive eye-opener. So if we can get to these kids at a very, very young age and be kind of two guys showing their vulnerability, telling them, how we cried and our emotions were running wild, but this is how we kind of cope with it, and it's okay. Talking about mindfulness, friendship, and using music to channel these emotions, it can maybe help somebody in later life when they come up against these feelings and these challenges. And that's I guess what we're kind of doing, and what you're saying there, it's just passing the torch on to let you know, listen, it's unfortunately a part of being human. However, if we embrace it and we use different techniques and different vehicles, then we can get through it a little easier.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a big NARSA, North American Ranger Supporters Association convention in Las Vegas, like a couple of weeks after my dad had passed. And one of the guys, just to completely reinforce what you said there, Stevie, a guy had said, look, I'm looking to buy a T-shirt. And we had this separate room where we had the apparel and stuff like that. So as we're walking across, basically from the main room to the room, he'd said something along the lines of, like, I'm sorry to hear about your dad. And I says, yeah, thanks. I'm just kind of on fumes right now because this convention was coming up. There was 2,500 people there, massive. And similar probably to the kind of routine that you guys established shortly after the passing. And one of the things is, we were just walking into the room, he says, like, nothing bad will ever come from talking about it. That's what he said. And for him, it felt like a kind of like a throwaway statement that he'd said, but like, it absolutely impacted me, you know, in a sense of going, and I do this stuff for a living. I'm a coach, I'm a life coach, I'm a career coach, I'm a leadership coach. And I know this, you know, academically, but when it happens to you, there's almost this outer body experience where you're kind of confused about the feelings and such. And it was such a powerful statement and something I've taken with me.
That's a really poignant thing the guy said there, and even you saying that there just now. And I think when you're saying there, you're a life coach, you're a leader, you teach all these things, but when it does happen to you, it's kind of like, whoa. And you think you're well equipped for it, and then you realise that you're human. And I think that was one of the things that we noticed with our dad, because he was the same as you. He was a mentor, a life coach, a motivational speaker. And you used to, and the feedback we got from our dad, from all our friends, family, people who met him, even when we took him on tour with Youngblood, and he ended up on stage in Poland, in the middle of Warsaw, on stage with Youngblood, he's just up for a Grammy just now. He's massive just now. And he texted us all day saying, listen, but your dad's going to be so proud of you. He's the most rock and roll guy I've ever met in my life. And when you see that guy, and he's your dad, but you see everybody else talking about them that way. But when you see him in a very vulnerable position, as you said, you know, you are these men, you are leaders, mentors, but everybody at some point in their life is vulnerable. And I think that's when it does happen to you, it kind of is an eye opener. But what it certainly does do, and it did for Alan, and I'm sure it did for yourself, is, and it's the same as, you know, if you're manifesting something, if you're praying to God or anything like that, and he has to be stronger and you has to be this type of person, you have to kind of go through adversity to get, you know, these powers of leadership or deal with something like that. You have to. That's the way that you get these coping mechanisms. You have to actually go through the adversity and the pain and the suffering. And I guess when you come out the other end of it, I think it's yet very useful to help pass that on, as you said, and give people the right tools and right words and comfort so that they can do the same.
Definitely. So what's next for the Happy Place workshop?
So it's pretty crazy. So one of the challenges that we've got is, unfortunately, as the band's growth with Nathan Evans get bigger, the workshops get bigger, everybody's asking for it. When we started, the first kind of year and a half, or just under 2 years there, it was all word of mouth. It was going great in terms of, we did a school, all we'd ask at the end of it, a bit of feedback, can you maybe pass on to some other teachers or other schools, you know. Next minute, that same day, the day after, would have 2 or 3 schools asking. So it just basically kept word of mouth, kept us going. And as I said, 200 schools, you're talking about, you know, 10 schools a week, a month or something. That was running great. We announced official charity status, and it's just blown the doors wide open. So right now, as of today, we've got bookings to take us all the way to the end of 2027. To fulfill those workshops is and that'll be more if we actually put the foot down. We could be here for the next 5 years, you know, doing workshops, and it's something we do want to do. However, it's going to take a lot of time and effort. You know, I don't think anybody realises, but the admin side of things is crazy. The back end of booking schools, routing them out, getting back to them. Then we have to do the feedback. We need to collect the data for the impact report. Keeping in touch with the social media, the website, and all these things. It's very, very time consuming, and the band's doing brilliant. With Nathan, we're out touring, we're doing other things. So, you know, our time's kind of limited. So what we want to do is, that was the whole purpose of going through the charity route, is we can apply for some funding to help us bring people on to the workshop and help us expand. So at the moment, we from the charity, we've got a great board of trustees. We've got our good friend Murray, who is helping us behind the scenes put everything together, because right now we need some help with admin. We also want to employ other Happy Place workers that can help us. We can deliver the workshop through their experience and through their story. We also want to employ therapists for follow-up sessions. As I mentioned, there was kids there who have been through the grieving process or loss or trauma. They need a bit of extra help, so we want to try and employ therapists for follow-up sessions for that. We also want to have an online interactive workshop where we can give access to the workshop basically at a click of a button. And we can have everything we teach in the workshop online. As I said, it's interactive, and we can have people like Nathan Evans, if I twist the arm, hopefully Lewis Capaldi, some other people we know we've worked with in the past. We can all record them and have this interactive workshop so we can impact way more people. And that's kind of the next steps of the workshop over the next, year or so. That's kind of the plan.
Incredible. I mean, that's more than a full-time job in and of itself. And then you have a full-time job in and of itself as musicians, as you say. You teamed up with Nathan Evans of late, and things are going great guns on that. Recently, as I mentioned in the bio, you were awarded Artist of the Year at the Scottish Music Awards. What does that mean for you in the band in terms of where you're at right now and potential opportunities in the future?
Well, it's amazing, and I think everything's about timing. As we spoke briefly there about being lost musically, we really were, and we didn't know what to do or where to go, or if to go on tour or not. With them to buy tickets, or because we weren't putting any music out, and we're thinking, all this stuff when you've got a wife and 2 kids in the house, mortgages and all the rest. I think, what do we need to think what we're doing with the band, because it's our job, it's our livelihood, and we weren't too sure. And in the midst of that, our dad always said, don't stand still, just keep going, just keep doing something, don't sit and overthink. You've got to keep moving. So that was always at the forefront of our mind, thinking, well, if we do something, it might not pay dividends now, but down the line it'll do that. So we kept on writing songs, and we kept on, if it wasn't for ourselves, we've always kind of helped write songs for the people. And we've done a couple of songs with Nathan before, and he came into the studio and we're doing some stuff. And then one day he came in and said, well, I want to try maybe a folk song. We sat down and we wrote this song, Heather on the Hill, and we loved it. And we sent it to the record label, his record label, and the record and the management. They went, nah, we're not liking this. God, we love this song. So we're like, listen, why don't you just put it on TikTok and see what happens? So he put it on TikTok and it exploded. And the management phoned us and right, the record label want to release this, and it's a great song. Let's go. So put it out, and it got in the charts, and it genuinely exploded online. It went great. And then they went, right, well, we want to do a full album with this, because he was doing kind of dancey stuff before, or dance covers, and they said, no, this is the way forward. So we jumped in the studio and we wrote some more kind of traditional folk music for his album, and then we actually share the same management. And the guy who's at the top of the tree in the management company is called Professor Jonathan Shallett. Great guy. Simon Cowell's best friend. Manages Lorraine Kelly and all the TV celebs. He's done Piers Morgan. Very, very smart man. And he phones me and says, I never forget the phone call. He phones me and says, Stevie, my boy, I think you're so talented and I love you. I says, thank you very much. He said, I've managed the biggest talent the world's ever seen over the last 40 years. And I can tell you, I've signed people who I thought would hit the moon, hit the stars, and it didn't quite happen. And some people's timing is just different from everybody else. And I genuinely think that you've not hit the heights that I always thought that you would hit. However, there's no reason why your time can't come at some point. And I went, right, okay. I was trying to get my head around it to think, what's he trying to tell me here? And he said, do you like Bruce Springsteen? And I said, I love Bruce Springsteen. He says, well, you've heard of Bruce Springsteen in the E Street Band, haven't you? I said, I have, Jonathan. I've seen them 3 times. I love them. He said, Nathan Evans in the St. Phoenix Band. And I went, I don't, I don't know what you're saying. I don't get it. He said, Nathan Evans in the Saint Phoenix band. I said, think about it. And I'm thinking, I said, well, I need to speak to Alan, my brother, and see what he thinks. Think in the back of my head, Alan's going to go, tell him to beat it. So I'm off the phone call and I'm thinking, does that mean St. Phoenix is coming to an end? Does he think not believe in St. Phoenix anymore? Or what does he not see me as a front man, or does he see me as a sidekick? And I just genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
I said, tell you now, Alan's going to tell me to beat it. So I phone Alan, and again, this was on the process of us being lost. So I phone Alan and I say, yeah, have I got Charlotte's just phoned me then? I just told him what I told you there. And he says Nathan Evans in the St. Phoenix band, and I went, I'm in. And I went, all right. So I phoned him back and he says, right, we're in. I said, we trust you because you're a very smart man. So he said, great.
Yeah.
So we wrote this song called Home, and then we pitched it for the Scotland getting to the Euros. And we put it out, and it went viral, went crazy. Everybody loved it. The Tartnami took it as their own. We went to Germany. Let everybody hear it again. That get in the charts. And it was brilliant. And Jonathan said, let's put on some shows and we'll test the water. We'll test the temperature. So we booked some shows, and we booked SWG3 in Glasgow. I think 1,000 capacity. And Live Nation, DF Concerts phoned us and said, listen, this might be a slow burner. It might take some time to sell tickets. We don't know how this is going to go because people don't know what this is. It's sold out within 5 seconds. And then we did Edinburgh Assembly Halls. That sold out within all these things. I think we did 4 or 5 shows. We did London as well, and we did Dublin. And they all sold out within 5 minutes. And we're like, okay, we get it. People are kind of getting this idea, this vibe. And then we helped Nathan with his album. We went to Germany. His album came out. We did a wee tour, and it was brilliant. And then the management said, our other manager, Alistair, who works with Jonathan, said, let's do a joint album. Let's go for it. And let's go out and tour. So we went out and toured at the start of the year, and we sold out all of Europe. We did 2 Barrowlands, which was crazy. All sold out instantly. And then we did Transmit main stage, and then we announced the Hydro, and the Hydro sold out in 5 minutes. 14,000 people selling it in 5 minutes. Yeah. And then I said, we've announced this album, and then we've announced a tour for next year, and everything's on the road to selling out, which is mental. We never thought about this is what we're going to do, and this is the idea. Yeah. What we did do is we manifested something. We believed in something. Definitely. We had faith in something, and the path is kind of unwinding one step at a time, all because we just kept going. So next year's going to be mental. That's all I know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right in terms of the manifestation and keeping going. Bertie provided you absolutely brilliant advice. And another thing that you haven't said, but it feels like you've just been open to information coming your way and then doing something with that information. Testimony to you saying, Alan's going to tell me to beat it here, and then I don't know where that leaves us. And then Alan, the timing just hits for him. There's some sort of serendipity there where he says, I'm in. And then you're going, and everyone's just like the stars are aligning. I know that sounds super cliche, Stevie, but one of those ones where it's not that rigid linear path where you're saying, no, this is the path we're going to take, where we do this thing and then we do that thing and then we do that thing. It's a case of let's see how it goes, and when the timing is right, something will present itself to us, and it will be the right thing to do at the right time.
That's it, and I think it was the thing of. Initially, we went to Germany not as Nathan Evans St. Phoenix band. We went to Germany as Nathan Evans playing his songs that we wrote with him. Yeah. However, it looked like we were a backing band to start with. We had the best fun ever, and it was like people were saying, but you're a front man, you're up singing up the front now, you're playing bass. And they didn't know that our what our plan was eventually. They just thought these guys have just lost it. They're kind of playing second fiddle. And the whole thing was, it was about us bringing brotherhood, camaraderie, friendship, and enhancing what Nathan was doing. And he was bringing talent and his personality to us. And when we combine, we come up with this, what it is. And people are just loving that. And they're just, I guess, attracted to us coming together and being something, and creating this kind of world. And this, we're celebrating Scottish culture and all these different things. People are just understanding it. And as the timelines unfolded, all that stuff of apprehension about St. Phoenix, how's that? That's kind of went in the back burner, and people are just going with it. Friends, family, our fans, they're all just kind of, it's kind of like, oh, it's always been this way now, which is great. And I guess what you're saying there, it always used to be, sometimes the music game is really, really hard. And I try to tell this to MD coming through. Don't grab a hold of it and say it has to be like this. Just go, everything's going to be off it. Everything's going to be great. Everything's going to be fine. I know it's going to be fine. I'm just going to keep working hard, and then everything will be fine.
Yeah.
And not really caring too much. And when you start doing that, all the things that you really want just start falling in your lap, because you're not being precious about it. You're saying, this is fine. We'll keep working hard, keep being a good person, and everything will be fine. And when you do that, you find that everything just starts to unfold.
Yeah, definitely. And that energy that you guys have collectively created is a movement of some description that is being embraced, as you say, all over the world. So you have this world tour. You've done a bit of touring already, and I mentioned briefly the world tour earlier. And the question I was going to ask you was like, like how much trouble are you going to get in on the world tour? But that's probably a bit rock and roll. We can maybe talk about that.
We're probably the most least rock and roll guys you could ask for. Nathan's got wee boys, got another baby on the way. Al's got 2 kids.
Nice.
My boys are a bit older. I'm more of a boomer to my son than being a cool rock and roll guy. I'm cringy because I'm on TikTok dancing and all the rest of it. So we're probably the most un-rock and roll dressing room and tour bus you've ever seen.
And I'm sure that's probably music to your management's ears and eyes, for in terms of damage and potential for that. But in terms of the actual world tour, I know. So our NARSA event next year is in Nashville. I know that you guys are heading down to Nashville in February timeframe. Yep. The new NARSA president, Alan McWatt, and Brian Campbell have both bought tickets. They are absolutely going to be there. They're trying to convince me to be there at the same time. I'm not 100% sure. At one point, we keep saying we need to get you guys over to a NARSA event. At some point, it hasn't worked out. So I'm going to put that out there publicly, that this is an ask, and hopefully your management team can help us make that happen at some point. But they're going to see you down there. What does it represent for you? You mentioned you've got bookings for a Happy Place up to the end of 2027. You've got a world tour, a literal world tour that's consuming almost all of 2026. What does that represent for you and the band and the guys and the workshop? What does that look like?
It's one of these things you said, when you feel like you're lost and you're down and out, and you always see these like these diagram images of like someone digging for diamonds, and they give up right at the last minute, just before that big pot of gold, whatever they're looking for is just there. And my dad always said this, all the successful people he ever spoken to, and if you listen to Think and Grow Rich as well, all these people they all talk about it was the dark before dawn. It was the darkest moment, and then everything changed. And I just wish I could get back. Well, I don't really wish I could go back, but if you think about it, I remember saying to myself when I was going through a tough time in 23, because my dad was the only guy I could speak to. My dad was the only guy, because I'm the big brother, so I would never, we used to start being a big brother thing and a manly thing, I don't know, but I'd never go to Alan and say, need advice. I've asked, the only person I would ever go to was my dad for any advice, and basically be vulnerable to him, because he would always give me the right advice and it would always work. But when he's not there, it's like, who do you go to? So we've got 2 managers I went to one of my managers, and I went to a guy who my dad mentored. He was in Birmingham. He was a young kid. He was from the streets, and my dad took him under his wing. He's called Tarek, and he mentored Tarek. Tarek's a president of a massive cybersecurity company now. He's really a successful man, and he's the only guy after my dad died who phoned me and my mum every week, every month. Now he doesn't do it as much. He checks in. The only guy did it. And I phoned him for advice, and he said, "I'm just going to tell you what your dad told me." And it says, "Keep on going. You just keep your eyes on the prize and keep working. I know it's hard, and if it feels like you're walking through mountains and tons of just adversity, just keep on going because it will get better." And I always say, I wish my future self could just walk through that door and go, "Everything's going to be all right." I just remember thinking like that way, but really, it did. It was all right. It did come. All that stuff came through because you started to get the faith back, and you just said to yourself, "I'm not going to let MD, especially myself, let me down and stop or give up. You've just got to go and do it and batter on." And we did that, and now we're seeing, the fruits of all the hard work and planting those seeds. And so I would say to MD that I would ever talk to or maybe listen to this is, have the belief, just keep going. And if you do these wee things incrementally every day, take these small steps, then when you look far down the line and you look back and go, "Fucking hell, man, I did come a long way. That was a big thing. I didn't seem it like at the time, but it did pay off." And for me, the great thing about that is when you're mentioning all that stuff at the start of the podcast, I'm going, "Geez, I forgot I did all that. Geez, that did all happen."
Yeah.
It's a wee bit of, assurance that this is worth it, and it stands you in good stead moving forward now. All the things you learn, not to worry, don't give up, keep believing, keep working hard, keep being a good person, and everything will just keep ticking over. So that's one thing, hopefully, as I said, 2026-27 is all shaped up to be good, just all because, you dug in and kept going.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's a great segue to the question I like to ask every single guest. This is called the Best You podcast. What is one regular practice that Stevie employs to give himself the best opportunity to be the best version of himself each and every day?
Trying your best, no perfect by any shape or means. I've started doing this wee thing at night, saying to myself, something amazing is going to happen tomorrow. I repeat it 3 times before I go to my bed. Something amazing is going to happen tomorrow. Something amazing is going to happen tomorrow. Something amazing is going to happen tomorrow. And lo and behold, something does. And it's only me that knows what that amazing thing is. And I always find it. So I always plant that in my brain. Try to be as self-aware as I can to maybe see where I can better myself any shape or form, as I said. But I keep looking at things I could maybe do that better. Do this better, do that, but certainly being a wee bit more patient with my younger son who demands everything because it's just the way life is now as well. But I guess it's just always looking back at the story and realising that if I'm sitting down in my ass doing nothing good's going to happen. Always got to be doing something, speaking to someone, emailing someone, calling someone, meeting someone, being creative. If you keep on moving, something good's around the corner.
Yeah, it reminds me of if you keep doing what you always did, you're going to get what you always got. So if part of that is genuinely sitting on your arse, then you're going to get exactly what you deserve by sitting on your arse.
You'll end up like Russell Martin. Nothing changes. There's nothing changes.
Yeah, exactly. So, Steve, this has been brilliant. Before I let you go, my friend, where can people find out more about you, about the Happy Place Workshop, about the World Tour?
Sure. So, all social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. It's all at St. Phoenix. It's SAINT PHNX. That's all across everywhere. stphoenix.com is the website. And Happy Place Workshop is happyplaceworkshop.co.uk. All the links are on there. All the information's on there. So if anybody's seen this and interested, we've actually had schools in America want to do a live Zoom workshop with us as well, which is crazy. something that we're more than up for. So yeah, if you want to have any information on the workshop, check that out as well.
Stevie, you're a good man. Thank you very, very much for taking the time out. I know you're a very, very busy man for this. Great to see you again. Hopefully there's better times ahead for our beloved club. And I know there's certainly better times ahead for yourselves and the band and the boys and the workshops. Thanks again for everything that you're doing, my friend.
I appreciate it, Gary. Great to be a part of it. Thank you.
Hello again. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode, and I do hope that you found it valuable and gained some insights. I do have an ask for you. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would absolutely love it if you would connect with me on my socials, and that's at LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube. Just search for my name and do whatever it is you need to do there to follow me and stay updated with all the latest content, tips and discussions. And for any more resources that you're looking for, feel free to visit my website, garygillen.com. And while you're there, you can book a free, no obligation 30-minute coaching call directly with me through the site. Whether you're looking to enhance your performance or tackle a new challenge, I'm absolutely here to help you succeed, and I would absolutely love to hear from you. Thanks very much again, and until next time, keep pushing towards your goals and getting better each and every day, my friend.